And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me wish you a happy National Day in advance to Singaporeans. Okay, so I think a lot of you have really committed your time to your company as well as to this event because to what I know, a lot of people actually are on leave this week. So it comes to me as a surprise that the road is actually very heavy. The traffic is very heavy, and in fact, I'm also surprised to find this whole place so new. So this could be as a result of me spending too much time away from Singapore. But I'm just glad to be here to kickstart this initiative by the National Cloud Computing Office of IDA. So the CSA is really the definitive de facto voice for IT, for anything to do with cloud computing security in the world. So we have came out with a report called Cloud Threat Landscape, or Cloud Threat, Top Threats to Cloud since 2010. And this is actually the second iteration that we have published in November last year. So just to share a little bit about the CSA. So the CSA is an organization that I founded in the States together with a few of my friends that I know over the years that are today top leaders in the security world today. So we actually decided that today the buzzword at that point in time is shifting from cybersecurity to something that's more definitive. So it could be a subset of cybersecurity, but at least it is a buzzword that many people can come to associate with or understand. So at that point in time, back in 2008, under the auspices of Vivek haven't come about, but under the auspices of Obama, right, during his first election, he actually made use and harnessed the strength of a cloud in his election campaign. So upon completion of his election, he tasked his CIO at that point in time, Vivek Kundra, to look at a cloud-first strategy for the US government. So at that point in time, under cloud-first strategy, that's how the concept of CSA was conceptualized, and that we decided to form an organization called the Cloud Security Alliance, and announced the formation back in February 2009 at the RSA conference. So today, after 4 years on the road, we are spread across the world geographically in 3 key regions of operations: Americas, EMEA, which is European, Middle East, and Africa, as well as APAC, which is really our latest foray into this market, only since July last year. So we operate as a member-driven organization, all coming together with the objective to bring trust to the cloud. Right? So if you remember nothing else from this talk, at least you can have one thing that you can take back, right? If you remember what Luke Skywalker have said, right? This is the guy, okay? Or should I say the little green man says that this is the guy that will bring the force, okay? The force be with you, and they will bring harmony and strength to the force. So if you paraphrase from that, what we are trying to do is we are bringing trust to cloud. So in doing that, we are creating a trusted cloud ecosystem that will support and accelerate the adoption of cloud computing worldwide. Right? So having said that, in this trusted cloud ecosystem, there are many, many stakeholders. And among our stakeholders, about 200 of them come together and form this alliance today that we know as Cloud Security Alliance, with over 48,000 individual members spread across 64 chapters worldwide. So Singapore chapter is one of the chapters that we have in the Asia Pacific, together with 12 other chapters spread across Asia. And Singapore is one of the chapters that have spearheaded several firsts in the alliance across the world, including being the first chapter that participate in the CSA Global Research Initiative that today we call the project Cloud Governance Working Group. So just that's a quick overview of who are our corporate members. In fact, I think really at the end of the day, you'll find all the who's list out there. So any companies they can think of, okay, except for Apple, they are all there. Right? Apple is well known for not joining any association or any trade union. So in this case, you'll be seeing all the Microsoft, all the Cisco systems, all the Juniper, all of them inside our corporate member list. Right? So CSA is not all about vendor organization, because you remember what I mentioned earlier, member organization include every single party that is also from the other, which also form the whole ecosystem. So it also include end users. So some of the largest enterprise end users of cloud today are also our corporate also on our corporate membership list. So among the 30-odd end user companies that we have today, I think some of the familiar household names like Walmart, for example, Walmart, Coca-Cola, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Sanofi's Advantage, all of these are actually all our corporate members. But the reason why they are not in this list is that one of them, a couple of years ago, I think it's this guy called Lockheed Martin, right? The company that produces F-35, they actually got hacked, right? So ever since then, all the corporate members that are from the enterprise user end, they have decided that they want to fly under the radar. Unlike F-35, they are very, very, just like National Day, they zoom across the sky screaming that they are very good, they are very secure. So they are actually screaming to become a big target for groups like Anonymous. So hacking groups like Anonymous always like to target those that are screaming across the sky. So in this case, ever since 2009, a lot of the corporate members decide to fly under the radar. So that's why all these corporate members at Walmart, they have decided that say, hey, please do not tell anybody we are in this corporate membership. But then again, all the Walmart, all the Starbucks, they decide to join CSA because CSA provide them the right best practices, standards and architecture that will help them do their work, especially when it comes to embrace the cloud. When we talk about embracing the cloud, it's important to have certain guidelines and standards. And with that, CSA has come together with many entities across the world, including ANISA, okay, European Network Information Security Group in EU under the European Commission. Of course, in US, we work very closely with NIST. So some of the NIST standards like 800-299. 800-299 is the latest NIST document on security of cloud architecture. The entire document is listed off the CSA Trusted Cloud Initiative, which is a secure architecture design for cloud, which is adopted by many companies, including Coca-Cola and Starbucks today, right? So that becomes a NIST standard, and right now we are playing with ISO. So some of the standards that we have done, some of the best practices we have done are actually already contributed to ISO. So at least from what I know today, there are at least 7 standards out there in development that are contributed by CSA, like 17788, which is a taxonomy of cloud computing definition, 89 is a secure cloud architecture, 27017, which is a collaboration with the Japanese national body, cloud security controls that support 27001, as well as 18 that we work together with New Zealander to define the data protection mechanism, and 27036, which is yet another effort that we cooperate with the US national body to define a secure supply chain, right? So you notice that we work a lot with the United States, especially with some of the standardization group. But since July last year, okay, we started to take a non-US centric approach when we expanded to Asia Pacific. So we have decided that being overly US centric may be detrimental towards the adoption of some of the things that we are doing. So make no doubt that some of the work that we are doing are really good work, but due to political reason, sometimes it doesn't get adopted by certain countries. So we are reinventing ourselves, branding ourselves to become having a more global view and less of a US centric. So the CSA in July 2012, we actually established the corporate headquarters of CSA in Singapore under the auspices of the IDA and as well as the EDB to bring in 3 key initiatives into this country to establish the Global Research Center here, the Standard Secretariat as well as the Global Center of Excellence for training as well as education using our CCSK branding in Singapore. So for example, some of the results that we've seen so far in our collaboration with IDA includes MTCS, which is one of the IDA standard that aims to certify cloud service provider, right? So at this point in time, they are calling a RFP to harmonize it with the work that is done in CSA that we call Open Certification Framework, that we offer a certification under Star label. So by next year, you shall see this harmonization being done, and Singapore will be the first country in the world that will offer a local standardization certification job that is globally recognized. So this is something that we have done with IDA over the past year, as well as more recently, they have also contributed the TIRA 30, right? Sorry, I'm very bad with the numbers. So TIRA 30, which is a Singapore standard on security of virtualization, is something that more recently IDA have contributed to CSA to took it under the CSA, under the virtualization working group, and turn it into a virtualization white paper, and then subsequently maybe we will contribute up to a standardization organization. So it could be it could be ISO, it could be ITUT. That we have to decide on a later stage. But Singapore is slowly trying to lead the way when it comes to setting some of the benchmark in cloud, and I think that's important because as an innovator, right, you get to set the pace where you want to go, and you get to set the standard for other people to follow, right? So that means that we are at the forefront of technology, we are at the forefront of some of the standards as well as some of the initiatives that we're launching. So naturally, we will be able to create some of the new job types and some of the new responsibility to be held and driven by Singapore and by Singaporeans before they actually got adopted by other countries around the region. So this is something very good in terms of manpower development. It brings something unique, okay, towards the Singapore space, and as we draw towards National Day, this is something that I think from a national perspective, this is extremely beneficial if we manage to harness the strength of the cloud computing, which many people thought that is the next era of IT, to help us transform our ICT industry and move on to the next decade. So this is very important. So I think for a lot of people are thinking, are there any initiatives that are we doing? So the short answer to that is yes, there are something that the IDA and EDB has been doing in the background for the past 2 years. It's just that we are slowly seeing the results. So this is something that we are doing together with Singapore. And in a span of less than half year, I mean, we conclude that the agreement with Singapore government, and we ratify that in August. And subsequently, we have further agreement with Hong Kong, Taiwan, and I think over the Chinese New Year this year with Thailand to spearhead development into ASEAN. So some of the things that we will be doing will be adopted by ASEAN as a whole towards the 2015 vision that ASEAN has for free labor movement across ASEAN countries. So, okay, so that's something that may be new to you, because right now we are talking about tightening the labor market, but actually in ASEAN by 2015, we couldn't tighten it because Singapore has ratified an ASEAN statement that says that we need to open up the labor movement for free movement. Right? So, no matter what they say about tightening, by 2015 we have to open it up. So, we cannot control all these things. We need to be part of a bigger picture. And anyway, opening out to the 9 other countries offer us a bigger market. So I'm actually very happy that we have a bigger market. But so we need to prepare for that, right? So that's why with CSA coming in, and from a manpower perspective, I think we, as well from a thought leadership perspective, we are driving some adoption across Asia. So that's good. So we are setting up a research lab, next-gen lab, together with University of Waikato, Auckland, and Unitec, under Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment in New Zealand. So this is another effort that we're doing, 7-year effort. The one with Hong Kong, so technology fails. Yeah, this is a better place. The mouse, okay. So, so this is 7-year project for Hong Kong. Yeah. So for Hong Kong, we are working very closely with S3, with the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which recently, under the PRISM issue, they were actually one of the target universities. So we are working to set up an incident response center over there. And then in Taiwan, we are setting up an R&D center over there that is aiming to bring all the endpoint players, all the HTC, all the Asus, all the Asus, Quanta, all the companies that are building your laptop today into the fray as well. So that, in the whole story of cloud, right, in the whole bigger picture, you have two ends, right? Endpoint. One endpoint is a data center. The other endpoint is your device, your end user device. So we are looking at both directions. So in Taiwan, I think they are the homeland to all the endpoint. So we need to target that. That means that actually at the end of the day, we have a big lab over there that I have access to all the newest devices, all the HTC One and whatnot. So it's all lying down there in the lab over there. I haven't touched them yet. I'm still using a very old 2-year technology from Motorola, and then another one of a corporate man. So these are some of the things from bigger picture I think might excite you, because it means that from here you are actually a global citizen participating in many of the activities that we can do worldwide in Asia Pacific, if not the whole world. So coming back to today's topic, so CSA, we are a not-for-profit organization. So through some of the research initiative, we actually define some of the best practices and guidelines in the market. So that also include standardization, which is one of the end result. So for some of the end result, it could be a commercialization effort whereby certain products and services can be created, and that is one of the things that we're trying to do in Taiwan, as well as maybe in Singapore together with IDA. But that is something that will be in discussion. But some of the research artifacts that we've done, for example, top threats is something that has been used worldwide by many research institutes as well as government to highlight some of the top issues that you might come to the cloud in terms of security, and how do you develop controls as well as measures to address all these potential threats. So I don't know about the American, because the American always like to have this kind of name like Notorious Nine, Malicious, Evil 10 or something like that. So I told them, isn't it a bit juvenile? But they say they like it. So I said, so fine. So as long as the people in this room, in Asia, doesn't mind the frivolous name, it is still a very good report. So this report, top threats, okay, this is into the second iteration. The first iteration, the first publication was actually done in 2010. So at that point in time, we were working very closely with HP to define some of the top threats to cloud. So this new version actually the previous version actually identified 8 top threats. So this new version, they actually came up with 9. So that's why they come up with this word called Notorious 9, right? So what happened is that they have identified some top issues and then they verified against previous issues that have been identified back in 2010 and found that there are some changes in the landscape. So if for those who are playing with security, especially application security, you know that there's an organization called OWASP, okay, which is another group founded by a good friend of mine. They specialize in identifying the threats in application security. So OWASP top 10, most of the time, over the last 5 years, they never change. Right? They're only changing the ranking only, but most of the threat remains the same. Cross-site scripting and so on and so forth. Unicode attack, almost the same thing. So for Notorious 9, we actually discovered that it's not going to, because originally we do not want to publish a new top threat document. Right? Because we have the assumption that it will be very similar to OWASP, whereby the document, some of the threats could be the same. But surprisingly, we noticed that a lot of things some of the things have changed significantly, including an inclusion of knife threat. So how do we do this survey? So from CSA perspective, because we are not a rigorous research institute, like the NUS, like the NUS of the world or the A-Star, what we rely on is a really more pragmatic, grounded research methodology that is based on applied research methods. So what happened is that we make use of the CSA membership list. So you notice that we have 48,000 members around the world. So out of 48,000 members around the world, we only survey 300. So it's not really a big deal. But if you talk about sampling size, you need to have minimum 300, 500 people in order to give you an accurate sampling. So what we did is we surveyed 300 over professionals from 50 countries globally. Okay, there's a lot of participation in Asia. Surprisingly, there's none from Singapore. None from Singapore. Okay. Again, I found it very puzzling because most of the efforts that we've done, we have sent the surveys across chapters across the whole globally. Right? So I'm seeing response coming up from Malaysia, Hong Kong, China, but I always see zero from Singapore. Can we change that? Because a lot of people are asking me, hey, is Singapore your country? How come nobody submit any response from Singapore? And then I do not know what to say. I could either say that I'm immigrating and getting myself a Panama passport, or I remain as a Singapore passport. Right? But if we really want to become one of the top leaders, we must start to participate in all these community initiatives. We need to participate in all these things, right? So can I have assurance from you that the next version, there will be a strong Singapore participation? Can we say yes? Yes? Okay, good. Because I think what Yao Seng will be saying is more Singapore participation under MTCS. Okay, so anyway, for the Notorious Nine, unfortunately, there's a lot of good responses, but none from Singapore. But nonetheless, they have validated the threat landscape for cloud today, and it reflects the current consensus that professionals across the world comes to recognize what are the top threats to your cloud computing environment. Whether is it a private cloud, public cloud, hybrid, whatsoever. By the way, all the terminology of public, private, hybrid community comes from the NIST standard, right? So today, some people are saying that the NIST standard is not a standard. So they are defining some new terminology in 17788 and 89 in ISO. So you must see some new terminology, so they don't have all these private service delivery model and whatnot. Some changes. I don't know whether what spread people is going to adapt to it, but there are some change. And in the new cloud security credential that we're developing with IC Square, we actually make use of 17788 and 89 rather than NIST to popular consensus in the whole room. Right? We've flown experts from all around the world. 99% of them are CSA members, 1% from IC Square. We sit in one room over the weekend, and surprising result is that people prefer to use ISO standard than NIST standard. So I guess this is an indirect reflection that they want to be more global in nature rather than more US-centric. But nonetheless, if you're using ISO, you have to throw away what you know about cloud computing today because the ISO document is totally different. I guess the whole part of it is because a lot of the things come from China. So they redefine some of the terminology. From the key contributor is from ZT Zhongtian. Sometimes I don't really understand what they're writing, but yeah, it's totally new. So if people decide to adopt this, I think you have to relearn a lot of things you know about cloud computing today. Okay, so there's just some sideline tidbits. The number one threats today that we are seeing, data breaches, was not number one back in 2010. In fact, in 2010, it was only the 5th threat, right? So if you can look down here, some of the top 4 threats, it doesn't include the past number 1, right? So what is on people's mind today is all the data breaches they are seeing, okay? All the data loss, insecure interface, account hijacking, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the key things that people are saying. We shall go into details on this later, right? So the past number 1 actually dropped to number 7, abuse of cloud services. Right, so we got to see where it goes. So just to go through the list, number 5 is denial of service, 6 is malicious insider, 7 abuse of cloud service, 8 insufficient due diligence, 9 shared technology and vulnerability. Right, so these are some of the things that we came in. Denial of service is something new, just to highlight to you. In the past, there's no such thing. But it did become a new threat because a lot of people are finding that some of the infrastructure that's supporting cloud today, especially in some of the places like Indonesia, they are finding a lot of issues with the infrastructure supporting the service. So that's why certain countries like Indonesia, they have a different models, business model. Most of the cloud application actually are developed as mobile application. And it can only work in the city. Out of the city, you can't use anything. So that's why you might find that's why BlackBerry is still around, because in Indonesia, most of the people use BlackBerry. So further, I think qualification coming from the research team is that this new version, they focus on new endpoint, like the smartphone and the tablets. All right. So the smartphone and tablet. And for the smartphone and tablet, we have another top threat report called Top Threats to Mobile Computing. Right? So this is something new that we have done together with Ping Identity. And this could be available in yet another session. So you might see the top threat to cloud computing, they call it, again, a very nice name called Evil 8. Right, so this is slightly different from a past version back in 2010, because in 2010 we never include those mobile devices like tablets or laptops with cellular access. So this report is more inclusive. And this is, so I mentioned that there are some top threats. So that's how we say top threat in mobile. This is top threats in big data. So this is yet another research initiative that we could dive in another session. So a lot of people on everybody's mind today is big data, data analytics. So behind that, so what are the key domain of issues? So they actually divide into 4 key domains: infrastructure, privacy, data management, integrity, and reactive security. Okay, all these will again branch into many other research. So for this one, I think it go into incident management and forensic in the cloud, right? So privacy, there's another called privacy level agreement that actually align with Article 29 in EU. So it's a project that we've done more closely with the European Commission, because they have certain very onerous privacy law. That's very different from US again. Huh? The same word privacy in US means different thing in Europe again. And in Asia, there's no such thing called privacy. So that's why you don't come to Singapore. So if we go to the Data Protection Commission in Singapore, they will tell you that they have no idea what the controls out there. So I think Ken Tai's group will have to study this report in greater detail. Data management, this is some auditing and governance terms, so it's more onerous. Okay, so let's come back to the top threats for cloud computing. Data breaches. So why are we seeing data breaches becoming number 1? Today, a lot of the services are migrated over to the cloud. More and more are on cloud today. So in the past, back in 2010, there is no such available case study or model, because SaaS was not even mature at that point in time. But according to the maturity model research that we've done in September together with Asaka, we actually see that SaaS is actually mature enough for widespread adoption. So according to the life cycle model, is at level 2. So level 2 means is up and rising and it's mature. Level 3 means it's a cash cow, that means that it's slow and steady. Level 4, that means it's in decline. So that is the standard life cycle model. 1 means that it's in the infancy stage. So according to the 3 service delivery model, PaaS, IaaS, and SaaS, SaaS is already in 2. PaaS and IaaS are still in 1. That was in effect from September last year. So with that in mind, data breaches become more and more common. So a lot of people has been transforming their organization to the cloud, right? So we have seen Windows come to about and launch Azure service and Office 365. And then we have also seen in China, most of the cloud market is dominated by one of our corporate members called Alibaba, Aliyun. 97% of the market is cornered by that. 97. So all the AWS and all the Windows Azure haven't come in yet. So Windows Azure only entered the Chinese market in June this year. and straight away they enter into a lawsuit. Right? So with that in mind, that means that more and more people are seeing a lot of security incidents happening in the cloud. So that's why security incident breaches as well as data loss becomes the top 2 threat, because what happens is that when we go to the cloud, we actually place all the data in the cloud. So that means that it's more onerous. Right? In the past, we can lock them under the brick and mortar wall behind the data center that we can only access ourselves or in our office. But today, your data center is not yours. It is a shared data center that's shared with many companies. Right? So when you outsource it to your cloud service provider, your data center may not even be in Singapore. So together with the other tenants in this whole cloud environment, okay, there is also something called collateral damage, whereby if they penetrated, for example, they decide to hack a company A, but in achieving that particular hack, they actually compromise the entire infrastructure that supported company A, and all the B to Z companies are collateral damage. So we are seeing more and more data breaches and data losses, and it actually I think what will going on in the future under the current Prism incident, I think the only issue, the only thing that will have, the only trend that you will have, it will go on is the only way it goes is the way up. I don't think it will be reducing. So I think over the weekend, last week, we've seen Black Hat and DEFCON in US. They are defining a lot of new data breaches in the cloud. Okay, so today they even define some of the systems that we have that we don't normally consider cloud computing as really a cloud computing paradigm. So cloud computing is not really a technology; it's a business model, it's a paradigm. So things like a small little network like your BMW connected to the internet, whereby the control system is connected through a wired network that is local and may sync back to the BMW service center. All this today is considered to be part of the whole new cloud computing paradigm. So I think what you have been seeing is a lot of this what they call Internet of Things. Right? Internet of Things means smart items like smart toilet. Right? So the moment you sit down on the toilet bowl, they will understand what are the issue you will have. Right? So with that, there's a lot of data privacy issues because all these analytics could be shared by other people, because the same toilet bowl may be shared by other people, or that it could be sent to your physician for analysis. So data breaches and in particularly data loss, because some of the data loss may not be from breaches. Breaches means a deliberate effort. Loss means sometimes it could be by chance they lost it during transit, for example. So this becomes some of the key threats today. Account service traffic hijacking is something that's more like somebody's trying to do a traditional social engineering attack in the cloud. Right? So this is something that happens since day one. It's a age-old trade since the beginning of time, that people will always be trying to social engineer their way through to get more information, or through masquerading, through cohesion, through cohesion as well as cohesion. So these are some of the things that it happens anytime in the past, and it will still happen now. So there will be people calling out to all the cloud service centers, says that I'm the system administrator of this company, right? I have my cloud with you. So I think there is something that have been problematic lately. Could you reset or add a new account, right? So this is some of the things that they are doing. So for these people in the cloud service provider, if they do not have any controls in place to validate the person that is making the call, the account is in a way will be hijacked. right? So of course there are other service hijacking methods, including technical methods, as in the whole LAN and WAN system. So so some of the sessions, like administration sessions, because today in cloud computing, you could be administrating some of these changes online in a self-service dashboard. So in this self-service dashboard, it may not be over a secure and encrypted channel. So that's how people could also do a session hijacking of that particular dashboard. For example, if you do some of the addition of new accounts or changing some rights, if you never enable a HTTPS session, it could be hijacked. If you are a true blue security guy, you might say that even HTTPS you could replay the attack, right? So that is slightly more difficult, but it still can be done. So insecure interface and API are some of the things that has been around because of incompatible API. Different cloud provider, different cloud service provider, or technology provider, they have different interfaces and API. Imagine that, for example, you have been on AWS. Today you want to move to Azure. Right? If you migrate to Azure, will the migrate be seamless? So this is something more towards the interoperability sides of things. So not to mention that, there's the OpenStack, there's the Hadoop, and there's various different cloud architecture that you are seeing. In China, for example, every company try to create their own. So when in China they call it 百花齐放, to me it's confusion, too many. Right? So if they have so many different programming language, cloud programming language, how do you make sure that the interface, the API, especially when you do migration or you change service provider, how do you make sure that everything is seamless? So it's not that simple as you'll see. So if you can guess by now, okay, so the key issues to adopting cloud computing or to accelerate the adoption, right, are things pertaining to security. Security is now loosely referred to not only security per se, like the encryption and the hacking kind of things today, but under the CSA guidelines, we actually separate it into 3 key areas, right? Secure architecture, GRC, governance, risk and compliance, and operation security. So altogether are 14 domains. So interoperability becomes one of the key issues under operational security. Okay, denial of service, like what I mentioned, is really an infrastructure issue. Insider. Okay, so normally when you try to infiltrate a system, you go by the easy way out, right? So for example, you want to infiltrate this IDA center in Esplanade. You either walk your way in and pretend to be a customer, and then you take away the iPad if you want, or you have to go through a normal registration process. So normally you go by the easy way route, right? So for malicious insider, what happens is that a lot of people go by the easy way route. Because everybody knows, for example, when a company outsource their service to a cloud service provider, the cloud service provider may not be the endpoint for you. Sometimes the cloud service provider, again, also sublet it to some sub-service provider. So somehow, you can see maybe, I'm not saying it's Singtel, right? But let's say if you give it to Singtel, Singtel may sublet to some of the partners. And because of the sub-provider issue, it may not stay within the physical boundary of the Singapore as a country. And you could even go all the way to Russia, or wherever is cheapest. Because the whole paradigm of cloud computing is compute as a utility, right? So compute as a utility means give you the cheapest and most efficient way of doing work. The cheapest and most efficient way of doing work may not be in Singapore. It could be somewhere else. So let's say if, for example, if one of my sub-service provider is in Russia. So as an insider, let's say I'm from your rival company, I want to steal some of your intellectual property. The easy way is actually to fly over to Russia, join that sub-service provider as an employee, as a system level 2 or level 3 engineer. You go in there, just as Snowden, you have escalated rights. You go in there, copy out, and then you can fly back to Singapore. So that's why there's an issue with the entire supply chain. So in ISO, that's why we have a lot of work on the supply chain security in 27036. In fact, 27036 is a collection of 5 documents. So one of the documents is talking about service, customer and supplier relationship in general. But the 4th document focuses on cloud supply chain. So the key thing is that, the controls, your auditor come in to take a look at the control from A to Z. Okay, while it is available in Singtel, it must also be available and active in any one of the sub-provider along the whole supply chain. Right? So how do you test that? Also, for those that auditor, don't think that you can fly to every country and do the audit. You can go all the way to Russia, go for your tour, and then come back again. No, not something like that. It's too expensive to fly all over the world just to do audit. So the easier way is to make use of the CSA Open Certification Framework. Right? Under the CSA Open Certification Framework, okay, level 3 that will be developed next year. We have included a component called active monitoring and audit assertion. Active audit assertion, so that from one end to the other end, as long as along the end any one of the controls fail, you will know immediately. You'll be notified immediately. Right? So the whole supply chain is secure and the whole supply chain is monitored at all times. So there is slight departure from the usual when you talk about audit, because everybody knows today you clean out the whole data center, auditor come. Tomorrow you put your bed there again. Right? Then the auntie will come in, plug in and plug out his vacuum cleaner, or you can put in your own iPad or iPhone charging. Okay, all this actually will fail one of the controls. By the way, you cannot anyhow introduce new item into the data center. But this is what is happening today. When we talk about all the ISO 27001 audit, or even the CSA level 2 audit that we conduct together by putting ISO 27001 and cloud control message together as the entire control set, it's still a review in point in time. So today it might be secure, tomorrow the breach happens because of human error. Right? So that's why in CSA we have level 3, which make use of an automated process. And that's why we actually sincerely believe that the cloud computing, okay, is here for us to press the reset button for the security industry. It allows us to revolutionize the way we know what is security of the past and define the new way forward for security. So in the past, 10, 20 years ago, you always use things to scare people like, hey, so-and-so got hacked, World Bank got hacked, all the scare tactics, it doesn't work anymore. Today, there's just too many companies got hacked every day. When you present all this paper to your senior management, they will say, so nothing new, got hacked, then reinstall, go back again, we still go live. So today is not about security but obscurity, it's not about scare tactic, it's about transparency. That's why some of the threats that we see down here, we aim to increase transparency as one of the ways to address threat. So transparency is through a process whereby it's openly accepted, worldwide accepted, as well as is easy to understand. So the OCF becomes one of the solutions to all this. So we do it in a multi-tier aspect. So level 1 is a self-attestation model, which will be useful in countries like US, whereby they have certain buyer's rights under FTC. So if you're a buyer, you buy something like that contributes lemon egg, for example, or something that according to the spec, they say they have this spec, but when you bought it, it doesn't have this spec. In US, the government will sue the company for you free of charge. So that's why there's a lot of business out there for the lawyers. So that's why in US, we can come up with self-attestation model. Any company, cloud service provider come out, they declare they have this, they really must have this. If not, they will face the commissioner charge inquiry. So, but then in most part of the world, including Singapore, we don't have this structure. That's why we come up with a third-party certification model. That's why in OCF level 2, we have a certification 27001 plus cloud control metrics, which is cloud-specific security controls audit requirement. So that is something that we are now doing together with IDA to bring IDA's MTCS and harmonize the whole process so that it's worldwide accepted. So, for example, some of the companies in Singapore may not go out of Singapore, so you don't need to go through the onerous rights of certifying the international standard. But then for some of the companies like Singtel, they got international business, they need to have this international thing. So right now, this is something that is being done by IDA. But this is something that we aim, okay, to address some of the issues brought together by this track through addressing transparency issue. And that has been something in the transformation of security that has been ongoing since last decade when the Enron incident happened. So there was a Sarbanes-Oxley and so on and so forth. So there was a lot of transformation along the way. And today we find about to reach the end of the tunnel. We are seeing that the OCF and some of the initiatives that we're trying to do are some of the ways that are going to be the new way forward for security. So malicious insider under the secure supply chain control, it will slowly reduce. So I think if we carry on this project 3 years from now, you'll see this slowly eradicated, right? As well as some of the denial of service, set technology vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. Because over time, all these things, set technology vulnerability is more like, Moore's law. Every 18 months, things will refresh. So there'll be new technology coming out. So today, what we know is cloud is actually pieced together by existing technology. So it's not really purpose-built for cloud computing. But over the next few years, there will be a lot of purpose-built product and services coming out that dedicate towards cloud environment. That's why we have that collaboration in New Zealand to talk about Cloud 2.0. So some of the new technology is going to be developed out there. So this thing, over the next 3 years, if we need to do some prophesizing, some of this threat will not be there anymore. Denial of this shared technology, malicious insider will not be there. But more and more, you will find this thing being highlighted, audit issue. Because more and more, you have to subject to audit, and a lot of the auditors will slowly get to know how to audit a cloud environment. Because in the past, the auditor need to see and feel, right? They have to go to the data center, they have to feel the rack. Say this is a real rack, or the real server. They will have to count every single server, right? In cloud computing, you couldn't count the server, you couldn't count the rack. So today, they are relying on some of the existing mechanism to help them do the work, including some kind of certification if you can receive it. So for those that are doing the certification of cloud service provider, it's actually not that easy because some of the controls they are looking at is very, very different from what you normally see. Abuse of cloud services is more like, this is something, why it was number one in 2010 is because a lot of the hackers are using cloud services, cloud computing services to their purpose. For example, they harness the strength of grid computing to help them crunch numbers, hack password. So one password hash file, they throw the cloud, it come out very fast the next day. So back in 2010, actually the first few people that embraces the cloud are the hackers. They actually make use of cloud computing service to do some of the hacking things like cracking password. But slowly, that isn't a key threat anymore because that become like a norm. The hackers since 2002, they have been using grid computing as a way to crunch number as well. At this point in time, people volunteer to join click computing for what? For research purpose or for SETI, finding aliens, SETI. So when you say yes to all this, you unknowingly open your computer to join a grid of computer that is used by hackers to do number crunching. So yeah, you are looking for alien, but in the way, at the end of the day, alien look for you. So you are part of the consortium that is hacking. So that's the transformation of NCCO from the grid office time to cloud computing time. So today we have shared with you the coming of the CSA, right? The coming of the cloud. Cloud, by no doubt, and is beyond all doubt today, is the next era of computing, right? So we have the mainframe, and recently we have the client server in the 90s and the internet age in the 2000s. So from internet services today, we are looking at cloud computing. And the fundamental shift is that IT is no longer peripheral, no longer a supporting role, but it becomes a critical essential in any company business. That's why the whole cloud computing paradigm is very fiercely adopted, and the growth has been phenomenal since 2007, 08 when it was first mooted. So behind the concept driving the adoption is the compute as a utility model. So utility means electricity, water. So IT today is compared to the water and the electricity. So as a water and electricity, you don't face question on whether do you need anymore. It's not a matter of whether you need anymore. It's a matter of whether I got stability as well as availability of this service. I do not want one day I can wash my hand, the next day I cannot wash my hand. I want to be able to turn on and off the light as when I want. For example, if it's not bright enough, I can turn on more light. So cloud computing is all about availability of services. It's all about the elasticity, on-demand nature. So as you need more, you use more, and they could ramp it out for you. And when you don't need that much, you ramp down. So in a way, that's why people say it actually leads towards cost reduction. So cost reduction is a side effect. It's not a main tenet of cloud computing. Big no mistake. Cloud computing is not about cost reduction. Cost reduction may come about, but in most circumstances, you actually spend more money. It's almost like your phone, right? You go on certain package, but most of the time you call more than that. So when you call more than that, you pay more. So cloud computing, when it becomes so pervasive, actually when you use more, you also don't know. So that's why when you do your provisioning at the beginning, you need a provision for the right contract. Just like when you go to buy your mobile phone plan. Whether are you on the basic plan or on the executive plan, you need to plan carefully. So because you thought that paying $30 every month is a good way of saving money, but at the end of the day you pay $200 because you use it to call your girlfriend or your boss call you and so on and so forth. So this is what we call poor provisioning. So you need to make sure that you do estimate the right kind of load that you need to do for your company, and that is when you could enjoy cost reduction. So like any new trends today, cloud computing also comes with challenges. So in the infancy stage of cloud computing, one of the key areas that have been identified as a key factors or key barrier from the acceleration of cloud adoption is security. And when we talk about security, it's not about the hacking or the encryption that we come to know of security in the past. But security is about security by design. You need to have the right security architecture right from the beginning. At the same time, you need to address key issues with regards to transparency from the governance, risk, and compliance perspective. Right? So it's all about being upfront, transparent, and visible. What are the kind of controls you have? What can you do? What can you not do? Security people don't profess that they can do everything under the sun. And security is not all about, it's never enough. There's a time that you need to draw the line, and that's where you need to offer a transparency, and from there, you need to do your own risk assessment and management. And lastly, operational security is when you do it, Okay, when you operate your cloud data center, or when you do your day-to-day job or in operation, all the incident response, the business disaster recovery, forensic, these are some things that you come in. Identity management, okay, as well as encryption, that's where it comes in. So CSA provide many research, as you can see. Right? So we do a top threat identification. We also have things that look at specific issues like mobile computing, big data computing. So make use of all these resources from CSA to help you do your work. Because in order to justify, okay, from a tactical perspective, what are the key things that you should focus on in your company? For example, your company will go to cloud, right? So your boss asks you, okay, what are the things that we should focus on, prioritize for this year? So this is where you need to come back to CSA, look through some of the research projects that we have, from our security guidance document to our cloud control matrix document to some of the things like the cloud threat, vulnerability research. From there, okay, you will be able to tell your boss, okay, these are the top 9 threats, right? So maybe we should focus on on addressing key threats to them. And then we need to also tell our user, okay, it's all right to use the cloud, don't to be so against it, and don't be so paranoia against it. So you need to not only identify what the threats, but you need to look at the kind of controls you put in place and the kind of assurance to your customers, to your end user, that this whole process is transparent, and you have a third party that offer a certification chop that makes sure that you are doing the right thing. So that's where you need to align with some of the initiatives, not only globally done by CSA, but locally through our regulators like IDA, some of the initiatives the IDA layout, like for example what NCCO have laid out on the MTCS, right? So MTCS tells you that, hey, these are some of the cloud service providers in Singapore that achieve a certifiable standard. So maybe when you go to a cloud service provider, you should ask the question like, are you certified? Certified to what kind of standard? Right? What kind of control you have in place? What are the controls that are not doing well? Can you give me a certification report? And this is some of the good work that have been done by IDA through Yao Sing and his team that is trying to do for the mass general public so that we can increase consumption of cloud. Right? So this is leading from work done 2 years ago when they first published TR31, which offer you a white paper detailing some of the key issues going to public cloud services. So some of the best practices. So if you put everything together between CSA and IDA, we actually give you a roadmap as well as a procedure in place. What are the things to do step by step? And I'm sure if you call the guys in NCCO, they will also tell you what the first thing to do. They'll give you a step by step, a 101. Right? So this is some of the good things that have been done. And if we go back to where we talk about right at the start, okay, do not imagine yourself as an island by itself. But Singapore today, we are a part of the global community, and we have to play a leading role in this whole global community. So cloud computing offers us the opportunity to walk beyond our shores and to define and redefine our job scope as well as new roles that we will be able to upgrade ourselves as well as to look for new opportunities in our career ladder. So instead of fighting for the level 1 engineer support role against the Indians or the Philippines or even in Malaysia, right? Look further beyond that. Look at some of the new opportunities that can be brought to you through cloud computing. And from there, you can have some new roles that you will be able to build on that and then accelerate your career path growth. With that, thank you very much.